Over the years, I've conducted hundreds of B2B SaaS sales interviews. And so in today's video, I'm gonna share with you the 3 steps that you can take to make sure that you are a top candidate that's cruising along to final round interviews and getting that offer. Be sure to stick around until the end for a jumpstart kit with even more sales tips and tricks that you can start using today. Hey, I'm Will, and if you're new here, I hope that you'll consider subscribing. I go over things in sales, digital marketing, and entrepreneurship every single week to teach you what you didn't learn in school to take you from zero to self-starter. Tell me what your name is in the comments below, and let's get into today's video. The first step I take when it comes to nailing your B2B SaaS job interview is to prepare your ARP. What I mean is to prepare for answers, resume, and people. For the first one, answers, this is where you're gonna wanna make sure that you have clear and succinct answers to the most common sales interview questions that you might be asked. You're gonna wanna make sure that you follow the STAR method when you are providing your responses. Are you including the situation, the task, the actions you took, as well as the results from your actions? Here are a few common questions that you might be asked in your sales interview. Tell me about yourself. Why do you like being in sales? What are you most proud of in your past sales experiences? Where do you want to be 5 years from now in your sales career? How do you plan to get there? Being prepared is paramount for communicating and conveying confidence in your interview. Aside from your answers though, you also want to make sure your resume is in place. A lot of the same principles apply here with the answer section, in which you're going to want to make sure that your resume is using the STAR method. Let's go over a good and bad example of what that might look like on your resume. A bad example would be conducted demos every week with new prospects, whereas a good example would be conducted 20 demos every week with new prospects, generating $250K in new business pipeline and $100K in closed sales. What's the difference between number 1 and number 2? Well, number 1 is super broad and could be said by anybody that's ever taken a sales role, whereas number 2 is clearly conveying that I got results for my work. So it's really important that you are communicating the results that you've had in your past experiences. Even the case where you have no prior sales experience, what you can do is you can still communicate the results and impact that you had on the past jobs that you have taken on. The third thing you're gonna wanna figure out in this first step is to figure out who is going to be interviewing you. And if you don't know, you should try to figure that out, or at least figure out the profiles of the sorts of people that might be interviewing you. You're gonna wanna look up their LinkedIn profile and scribble some notes down as to things that you might wanna ask them in the questions section at the very end of your job interview. The reason why I wanna do this is because I want you to think about it from the lens of the interviewer. Who am I going to ultimately remember at the end of a week where I've already interviewed 10 different people? Am I going to remember the person who just showed up and answered my questions, or am I going to remember the guy that clearly had done prior research on me and wanted to learn more about me because he or she was interested in my background? 9 times out of 10, assuming that both candidates are comparable in their past experiences, I'm gonna choose the second person because they showed an interest in me as a person. What you're aiming to convey in your job interview is that you are eager, that you're a good fit for the job, as well as for the culture of the company, as well as that you are prepared for today's interview. When it comes to specifically B2B SaaS sales, you also want to ideally convey that you are tech savvy and that you are a quick study. The reason why is because a lot of B2B SaaS sales companies are looking for a quick ramp up time before you become a fully functional sales rep. The second step you're gonna wanna take is you're gonna wanna do your due diligence on the company. Now, I'm gonna assume that you've already looked at what the company does before you submitted your resume, but even in the case where you were just doing a spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks approach, you now have an interview. So you should be doing some more research about the company and what they're all about. You'll want to make sure that you're able to answer questions like, what is the company all about and where are they headed in the next few years for their mission and their vision? And what is it like to work at the company? If you want to learn what it might be like to work at the company, the best way is to either network with people at the company or to look up the Glassdoor of the company and learn what past and current employees are saying about them. Aside from these more general things though, I'd also recommend that you take some time to dig into the product itself. Learn about what their latest releases have been so that you can demonstrate that you did clear research about their product and that you care a lot about the solution that they are providing for their customers. In general, tech companies love it when sales reps have a clear alignment with what they are selling and the customers that their company is serving. This is also a great time for you to reread the job description and prepare some follow-up questions for your interviewer if anything is unclear. If you want to know 5 things not to do in your sales job interview, I'll leave a link to that video that you can watch after this video. Before we head into step number 3, if you've been nodding your head along in this video or learned something new, do me a favor and make that like button blue by clicking it below. I greatly appreciate it and it helps support the channel. The third and final step you're going to want to take for your B2B SaaS sales job interview is to perform on game day. At this point, you've got everything you need to crush this interview. Now it's all about just showing up and doing your best job. Even in the case where it doesn't go well, it's really not a big deal. Just send your application out for a few other people and land another job interview. Over time, just like in sales, with more repetitions, you're gonna get more comfortable with your answers, get more precise in using the STAR method, and be able to be a top performer in these interviews. Being completely honest, one of the top reasons why I don't move some candidates to the final round is not because they are nervous, but because they don't adequately prepare for the interview. Oftentimes, candidates that I've passed on show no alignment to the role that I'm hiring for, or just little to no excitement about the company itself. So whenever it comes down to a head-to-head matchup, I always value enthusiasm and alignment towards the culture of the company as well as the work itself in assessing candidates. In the case where it's a remote interview, you might find it useful to jot down a few key things that you want to highlight in your interview so that in the case where you get frazzled, you can look quickly at your cheat sheet and then from there give a direct response. There are two big takeaways from today's video. The first one is be precise with your preparation. The more precise you are, the better prepared you're going to be for your interview. The second big takeaway is be primed and prepared for game day. In case I said anything today that sparked a thought or question, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I read and try to respond to every single comment. If you found this video helpful, I always appreciate when you hit that like button below to let me know. And if you enjoyed this content, you've made it already this far into this video, then you might as well subscribe if you haven't already. I cover something in sales, digital marketing, and entrepreneurship every single week to help you level up your business skills and go from zero to self-starter. As my thank you for watching this video, I'll leave a link to my Sales Jumpstart Kit, which has even more tips and tricks that you might find helpful in the video description below. I've covered a ton of sales content lately, so I'm gonna be shifting gears in my next series to talk about what is it like to work remotely for a startup. While you wait for that though, check out these videos that YouTube thinks you might like.